So they can kill us, but we can't kill them. That's what you're saying. And as far as the internet is concerned, I'm not talking about closing the internet. I'm talking about parts of Syria, parts of Iraq, where ISIS is, spotting it. Now, you could close it. What I like even better than that is getting our smartest and getting our best to infiltrate their internet so that we know exactly where they're going, exactly where they're going to be. I like that better. But we have to... Who would be... I just can't imagine somebody booing. These are people that want to kill us, folks. And you're objecting to us infiltrating their conversations? I don't think so. I don't think so.
Senator Paul.
Mr. Trump, are Americans safer with dictators running the world in the Middle East?
In my opinion...
Go ahead, Mr. Trump.
In my opinion, we've spent $4 trillion trying to topple various people that, frankly, if they were there and if we could have spent that $4 trillion in the United States to fix our roads, our bridges, and all of the other problems, our airports, and all of the other problems we have, we would have been a lot better off. I can tell you that right now. We have done a tremendous disservice, not only to the Middle East, we've done a tremendous disservice to humanity. The people that have been killed, the people that have been wiped away, and for what? It's not like we had victory. It's a mess. The Middle East is totally destabilized, a total and complete mess. I wish we had the $4 trillion or $5 trillion. I wish it was spent right here in the United States on our schools, hospitals, roads, airports, and everything else that are all falling apart.
Wow, that is exactly what President Obama said.
Go ahead.
That's exactly what President Obama has said. I'm amazed to hear that from a Republican presidential candidate. But let's just start with who got it wrong. Who really got it wrong? Hillary Clinton has gotten every foreign policy challenge wrong. The gimmicky red reset button with Vladimir Putin. Recall that she called Bashar al-Assad a positive reformer, and then she opened an embassy. And then later she said over and over and over again, Bashar al-Assad must go, although she wasn't prepared to do anything about it. Recall that Hillary Clinton was all for toppling Muammar Gaddafi, then didn't listen to her own people on the ground. And of course, when she lied about the terrorist attack in Benghazi, she invited more terrorist attacks.
Thank you. Mr. Trump.
Well, there's nothing to respond to. People feel differently. I mean, the fact is Benghazi was a disaster because of Libya. Everything just fell into place. It could not have been worse. What do we have now? We have nothing. We've spent $3 trillion and probably much more. They have no idea what we spent. Thousands and thousands of lives. We have nothing. Wounded warriors all over the place who I love. We have nothing for it. And by the way, and Ben said, and correctly, and I'm not saying this is a knock, because this is one of the finest men. You're not going to find a finer man. But I've been talking about oil for 3 years. I've been saying, take the oil, take the oil. I didn't say just bomb it. I said take it and use it and distribute it so that the wounded warriors and people... But I've been saying this now for many years. Now, all of a sudden, everybody's saying take the oil. It wasn't so fashionable to take the oil 6 months ago. I've been saying it for years.
Dr. Carson, is the Middle East... Mr. Trump,
yes.
We are talking about the most important thing. That's why it's heated. And you're okay with Mr. Assad staying in power. But you're also in favor of winning. If he stays in power, Iran is winning. Hezbollah is winning. Iran is winning in Yemen. They are winning everywhere. If they're winning, how can we be winning?
I think Assad is a bad guy. Very bad guy. All right? Lots of people killed. I think we're backing people. We have no idea who they are. The rebels. We call them the rebels. The patriotic rebels. We have no idea. A lot of people think that they're ISIS. We have to do one thing at a time. We can't be fighting ISIS and fighting Assad. Assad is fighting ISIS. He's fighting ISIS. Russia's fighting now ISIS. And Iran is fighting ISIS. We have to do one thing at a time. We can't go. And I watch Lindsey Graham. He said, I've been here for 10 years fighting. Well, he'll be there with that thinking for another 50 years. He won't be able to solve the problem. We have to get rid of ISIS first. After we get rid of ISIS, we'll start thinking about it. But we can't be fighting Assad. And when you're fighting Assad, you're fighting Russia, you're fighting a lot of different groups. But we can't be fighting everybody at one time.
Governor Christie. Governor Bush. Commander-in-Chief question. You said that Mr. Trump is not qualified to be president because he's not qualified to deal with Vladimir Putin. Why are you better qualified to deal with Vladimir Putin than Mr. Trump?
Because first of all, I know what I don't know. I know what I don't know. I would seek out, as I have, the best advice that exists. I won't get my information from the shows. I don't know if that's Saturday morning or Sunday morning. I don't know which one. I will seek out the best advice, and I will create a strategy, and I will persuade the American people what the role of America should be. I've laid out a policy of rebuilding our military. All of the talk that we're saying here, most of which I agree on, frankly, requires a much stronger military. We now have a lack of readiness that is quite scary. We have planes that Harry Truman inaugurated, the B-52. We have the Navy has been gutted and decimated. The readiness of the Marines is way down. If we're serious about America's leadership in the world, then we need to make sure that we have the back of the armed forces. The Armed Forces Radio is here listening to this today. I hope they know that if I'm president, I'll be a commander-in-chief, not an agitator-in-chief or a divider-in-chief, that I will lead this country in a way that will create greater security and greater safety.
Mr. Trump.
I think it's very sad that CNN leads Jeb Bush, Governor Bush, down a road by starting off virtually all of the questions. Mr. Trump this, I think it's very sad. And frankly, I think it's very sad. And frankly, I watched the first debate, and the first long number of questions were, Mr. Trump said this, Mr. Trump said that, Mr. Trump. These poor guys, although I must tell you, Santorum, good guy. Governor Huckabee, good guy. They were very nice, and I respect them greatly. But I thought it was very unfair that virtually the entire early portion of the debate was Trump this, Trump that, in order to get ratings.
Mr. Trump, it's not CNN. Mr. Trump, I just think it's very
excuse me. I think it's very unprofessional.
But it wasn't CNN. It was me. I watched you last night for 16 minutes.
I think it's very unprofessional.
It's not CNN. It's America's watching you.
Okay, fine.
It's America's watching.
So I was mentioned, so I can bring up something, I think, right? Look, the simple fact is, if you think this is tough and you're not being treated fairly,
this isn't tough and easy.
Imagine what it's going to be like dealing with Putin, or dealing with President Xi, or dealing with the Islamic terrorism that exists. This is a tough business to run for president.
I know, you're a tough guy, Jeb.
And we need to have a leader that is real tough. You're never going to be president of the United States by insulting your way to the presidency.
Let's see, I'm at 42 and you're at 3, so far I'm doing better.
Doesn't matter.
So far I'm doing better. You know, you started off over here, Jeb. You're moving over further and further. Pretty soon you're going to be off the end.
It doesn't do a thing to solve the problem.
It sounds more and more at risk. And I tell you, if I'm elected president, we will secure the border. We will triple the Border Patrol. We will build a wall that works, and I'll get Donald Trump to pay for it.
I'll build it.
Thank you. Senator Rubio, please. Mr. Trump,
problem and secure the border.
Mr. Trump, you like to say that you restarted this conversation in the campaign.
I think I did.
So who do you side with? Who do you side with in this? Senator Rubio or Senator
Cruz? I have a very hard-line position. We have a country or we don't have a country. People that have come into our country illegally, they have to go. They have to come back in through a legal process. I want a strong border. I do want a wall. Walls do work. You just have to speak to the folks in Israel. Walls work if they're properly constructed. I know how to build. Believe me, I know how to build. But I feel a very, very strong bind, and really I'm bound to this country. We either have a border or we don't. People can come into the country. We welcome people to come in, but they have to come in legally.
Thank you. Governor Bush.
Yeah. Mr. Trump, Dr. Carson just referenced the single most important job of the president, the command, the control, and the care of our nuclear forces. And he mentioned the triad. The B-52s are older than I am. The missiles are old, the submarines are aging out. It's an executive order. It's a commander-in-chief decision. What's your priority among our nuclear triad?
Well, first of all, I think we need somebody absolutely that we can trust, who's totally responsible, who really knows what he or she is doing, that is so powerful and so important. And one of the things that I'm frankly most proud of is that in 2003, 2004, I was totally against going into Iraq because you're going to destabilize the Middle East. I called it. I called it very strongly, and it was very important. But we have to be extremely vigilant and extremely careful when it comes to nuclear. Nuclear changes the whole ballgame. Frankly, I would have said, get out of Syria, get out. If we didn't have the power of weaponry today, the power is so massive that we can't just leave areas that 50 years ago or 75 years ago we wouldn't care. It was hand-to-hand combat. The biggest problem this world has today is not President Obama with global warming, which is inconceivable. This is what he's saying. The biggest problem we have today is nuclear proliferation, and having some maniac, having some madman go out and get a nuclear weapon. That's, in my opinion, that is the single biggest problem that our country faces.
Of the three legs of the triad, though, do you have a priority? Because I want to go to Senator Rubio after that.
I think to me, nuclear is just the power, the devastation is very important to me.
Senator.
Mr. Trump, just this weekend you said Senator Cruz is not qualified to be president because he doesn't have the right temperament and acted like a maniac when he arrived in the Senate. But last month, you said you were open to naming Senator Cruz as your running mate.
I did.
So why would you be willing to put somebody who's a maniac one heartbeat away from the president?
But I've gotten to know him over the last 3 or 4 days. He has a wonderful temperament. He's just fine. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Senator Cruz, you have not been willing to attack Mr. Trump in public, but you did question his judgment in having control of...
Mr. Trump, my listeners tell me again and again they're worried that Hillary Clinton will win the White House because you run as an independent. Are you ready to reassure Republicans tonight that you will run as a Republican and abide by the decision of the Republicans?
I really am. I'll be honest. I really am. I mean, people have been putting me to test. I really am. Dr. Person. Can I just...
Oh, please.
I've gained great respect for the Republican leadership. I've gained great respect for many, and I'm going to even say, in different forms, for the people on the dais. In different forms. But I have great respect for the people I've met through this process. I've never done this process before. I've never been a politician. For the last 6 months, I've been a politician. But I will tell you, I am totally committed to the Republican Party. I feel very honored to be the front runner, and I think I'll do very well if I'm chosen. If I'm so fortunate to be chosen, I think I'll do very well. Polls have come out recently say I would beat Hillary. I will do everything in my power to beat Hillary Clinton. I can promise. Dr. President, Mr. Trump, our country doesn't win anymore. We don't win on trade. We don't win on the military. We can't defeat ISIS. We're not taking care of our great people, the veterans. We're not taking care of them. We have to change our whole way. Our healthcare system is a disaster. It's going to implode in 2017, just like you're sitting there. It doesn't work. Nothing works in our country. If I'm elected president, we will win again. We will win a lot. And we're going to have a great, great country, greater than ever before. Thank you.
Thanks to all the Republican presidential candidates.